Hey everyone, and welcome back to Binge Guide, the next show. I'm Andrew.
And I'm Victoria.
And today we are going full deep dive into some source material that you have sent us.
Yes.
About this new crime drama that is coming to Apple TV Plus called Dope Thief.
All right.
It premieres March 14th.
Yeah.
So we've got to get this information to you before you commit to that binge.
Yeah, absolutely. And from what I'm seeing, Dope Thief has all of the ingredients.
Oh, yeah.
For a gripping series, a clever premise based on Dennis Tafoya's novel.
Oh, nice.
A cast that is pure fire.
Okay.
And a twist that I think nobody's going to see coming.
I like it. Okay, so first things first, set the scene for us. What's the basic premise of Dope Thief?
So imagine two longtime friends from Philly, Ray and Manny, who are basically small-time criminals, always looking for the next score. Their thing is impersonating DEA agents.
Oh, wow.
To rob drug dealers.
Interesting.
It's a risky scheme, but it's been working for them up until now.
And this is where I think it gets really interesting. They accidentally hit a much bigger operation, right?
Exactly. They stumble onto and disrupt one of the biggest drug corridors on the East Coast.
Wow.
So certainly they've got everyone on their tail, not just the folks that they ripped off,
right,
but some serious players in the drug world.
Stakes just went way up.
Huge stakes.
Now, you mentioned that this series is based on a book. Does the source material give us any clues about what we can expect?
Whoa.
So here's the thing. The series sticks pretty closely to the first half of the book.
Okay.
But then it veers off in a totally different direction.
What?
In the novel, the initial conflict is resolved about halfway through.
Interesting.
Almost like two separate stories in one book.
Huh.
But the series keeps that tension going, stretching the crisis throughout all 8 episodes.
Wow, that is a very bold move. The creator, Peter Craig, actually admitted to making these changes. He even said that author Dennis Tafoya is happy with the new direction. What do you think happy really means in Hollywood? Right, is it genuine enthusiasm, or is it more like, well, they're making it anyway, so I might as well say I'm happy,
Yeah.
It's definitely something to keep in mind as we explore this further, but it's got us intrigued.
Totally. It makes you wonder what the impact of extending that conflict will be.
Yeah.
Maybe they're going to dig deeper into Ray and Manny's relationship, how it's tested under this extreme pressure.
Yeah, and the psychological toll it takes on them. They're not hardened criminals. They're just two guys that got in over their heads. What happens to their families? The source material hints that those ripple effects will be a big part of the story, too.
All right, let's get into these sources. First up, we've got this article from Collider titled, "It Leaves the Shore Entirely. Dope Thief creator admits the series has made bold changes to the book." I love that phrasing, leaves the shore entirely. What's the key takeaway here for our listener?
Well, this article confirms that the changes Craig made weren't accidental. He intentionally shifted the focus from a contained heist to a more sprawling season-long conflict. It also dives into those structural differences we just discussed, comparing the book's 2-part structure to the series' extended arc.
The Collider article also touches on how Craig actually went to Tafoya, the author, to get his blessing for these changes.
Yeah.
And Tafoya apparently gave it. Now, we already talked about how happy could mean different things in Hollywood, but it's still an interesting detail.
It certainly is. And think about it from the listener's perspective. You're going into this knowing the series is taking some big swings, which could be a good thing or a bad thing, Yeah. It's like, are they confident enough to improve upon the source material, or are they just messing with a good thing?
It's a gamble, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, next up we have a press release straight from Apple TV. Plus, this one lays out the basic plot points. The two small-time criminals from Philly, the DEA agent, kind of the whole accidental stumble into something way bigger. But what stood out to you?
What's fascinating here is how much emphasis they put on the longtime friendship between Ray and Manny. That bond seems like it's going to be a cornerstone of the series.
Oh.
And given the pressure cooker situation they're in,
right,
you can bet that friendship is going to be put to the test.
It reminds me of that saying, there's no honor among thieves. But what if their friendship is the one thing they are trying to hold on to, even as their world is falling apart?
Right.
That adds a whole other layer of conflict.
Exactly. And then to make things even more complicated, the press release highlights the impact their choices have on their families.
Oh, yeah.
You can't pull off these kinds of stunts without consequences, and it looks like Dope Thief is going to explore those consequences in a very real way.
All right, let's keep rolling. What's next on our deep dive checklist?
Well, we have this piece from the AV Club titled, "Ryan Tyree Henry Steals from the Wrong Drug Dealers in the Dope Thief Trailer." They go into more detail about the casting, specifically highlighting Kate Mulgrew,
Okay.
who you might remember as Red from Orange is the New Black,
Oh, yeah.
playing Henry's mother.
Okay.
That dynamic alone adds a whole other layer of complexity to the story.
Well, absolutely. Mulgrew is such a powerhouse actress. I can already imagine the scenes between her and Brian Tyree Henry, the tension, the love, the disappointment. It's like adding fuel to the fire. And speaking of the trailer, let's talk about that for a second. It's packed with action, and you can really feel that tension as things spiral out of control for Ray and Manny.
The trailer is like a masterclass in visual storytelling. It captures that gritty urban feel of Philadelphia, the desperation in Ray and Manny's eyes as they realize how deep they've gotten themselves. But it also hints at those quieter moments, the emotional fallout, the toll this all takes on them.
It's like they're saying, buckle up for the ride, but be prepared to feel something.
Yeah, exactly. Now, this article from Dope Thief Trailer, Brian Tyree Henry and Wagner Moura are robbers playing cops in Apple TV Plus Thriller, does a good job of setting up the central conflict.
Okay.
It really emphasizes how Ray and Manny's seemingly foolproof plan goes disastrously wrong when they accidentally cross paths with a major narcotics operation.
They basically picked the wrong house to rob, and now they've unleashed chaos.
Right. And the article points out that this situation is going to push their friendship to the limit. Will their loyalty hold, or will they betray each other to save themselves?
Oh.
That's the kind of dilemma that makes these crime dramas so compelling.
I'm already hooked. Okay, what else do we have?
Well, Brave New Coin takes a slightly different angle in their article, Dope Thief, a high-stakes heist with heart. They focus on the emotional core of the story, arguing that the series isn't just about action and suspense, but also about the characters' internal struggles with identity, morality, and the weight of their choices.
I love that phrase, a high-stakes heist with heart. It perfectly sums up the potential of the series to deliver both thrills and emotional depth. It's not just about watching these guys get away with it. It's about understanding why they do what they do and how it impacts them.
And Brave New Coin also points out that the series might delve into the socioeconomic factors that lead people into lives of crime.
Yeah.
That could add a really interesting layer of social commentary, exploring the systems that make it hard for some people to get ahead without resorting to desperate measures.
It's a reminder that choices aren't always black and white, especially when you're dealing with difficult circumstances. All right, let's move on to Joe Blow's take on the trailer. Their article is called Dope Thief Trailer Has Brian Tyree Henry and Wagner Moura Taking Money from the Wrong People. They delve into the background of the book, reminding us that Ray and Manny's original plan was to target low-level dealers, the kind of guys who wouldn't report a robbery to the cops for fear of exposing their own activities.
But then they get greedy or maybe desperate and they choose the wrong mark. It's a classic case of biting off more than they can chew. And the article quotes a snippet from the book's synopsis where Ray expresses a desire to get out of the game.
Interesting.
That internal conflict, that longing for a different life, is something I'm really curious to see explored in the series.
You know, that one detail adds so much depth to Ray's character. He's not just a thrill seeker. He's a guy trapped in a life he doesn't want. And this whole situation might force him to confront those desires, those dreams of something better.
It's a classic theme in crime dramas, but it never gets old. So, to sum up what we've learned from these sources, Dope Thief is shaping up to be a high-stakes crime drama with a clever premise, a twisty plot that diverges from the book, a stellar cast, and the potential to explore some truly compelling themes.
But is it going to be any good? That's the million-dollar question.
Right, we've got all the pieces in place, but we won't know for sure until we actually see it. Will the changes from the book pay off? Will the actors live up to the hype?
And will this be the next show that our listener absolutely has to binge?
We'll have to wait and see, but based on what we've unpacked so far, I'd say the odds are looking pretty good.
All right, so far we've covered the plot, the source material, and some early reactions to the trailer. But what about the people behind the scenes? Let's delve into the creative team, starting with the writer and creator, Peter Craig.
Peter Craig might not be a household name like Ridley Scott,
Right.
but his writing credits are seriously impressive.
Yeah.
He wrote The Town,
Oh, yeah.
that Ben Affleck heist movie, which was so gritty and character-driven.
Yes.
And then there's Top Gun, Maverick,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
a blockbuster with a surprising amount of heart,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. It's like he knows how to blend action and emotion in a way that keeps you on the edge of your seat, but also invested in the characters. So what do you think drew him to this particular story, this world of Dope Thief?
Well, based on his previous work, I'd say he's drawn to stories about people who operate outside the law, those gray areas of morality.
Right.
His characters often face impossible choices, and their actions have real consequences.
Yeah.
That's what makes them so compelling to watch. And Dope Thief seems to fit that mold perfectly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Ray and Manny aren't masterminds.
Right,
They're
yeah.
just two guys trying to get by.
Yeah.
And they make a mistake that sends their lives spiraling out of control. It's a classic tale of ambition, desperation, and the unintended consequences of their actions.
Exactly. And Krieg's strength lies in his ability to make you empathize with those characters, even when they're doing things you might not agree with.
Yeah.
He understands the human condition,
Right.
the flaws and complexities that drive people to make those choices.
All right, let's move on to the elephant, or should I say the gladiator in the room, Ridley Scott.
Oh, yeah.
This guy is a cinematic legend, Blade Runner, Alien, Gladiator, The Martian. He's directed some of the most visually stunning and iconic films of all time.
Yeah.
What do you think his involvement brings to Dope Thief?
Well, first of all, it brings instant credibility and prestige to the project. You know, when you have a name like Ridley Scott attached, you know, it's going to be high quality.
Right.
But beyond that, Scott is a master of creating immersive worlds.
Oh, yeah.
He has an incredible eye for detail, for building believable environments that draw you into the story.
And you can see that in the trailer for Dope Thief, right?
Oh, totally.
The gritty streets of Philadelphia.
Yeah.
The claustrophobic tension of those heist scenes. It feels cinematic, like you're watching a Ridley Scott film unfold on your TV screen.
Exactly. And the fact that he's directing the first episode is a huge deal.
Okay.
He's essentially setting the tone for the entire series, establishing the visual language, the pacing, the overall aesthetic. You can bet that every frame is going to be meticulously crafted, packed with detail and atmosphere.
It's like he's laying the foundation for a world that you can just step into and believe in.
Yeah.
And I think Scott's involvement also speaks to the growing power of streaming platforms like Apple TV+.
Totally.
They're attracting these big-name directors, these cinematic heavyweights who might not have considered working in television a few years ago.
It's a testament to the quality of the storytelling, the creative freedom they're offering, and the fact that the lines between film and television are blurring more and more these days. It's a win-win for viewers like us because we're getting these high-caliber productions, these stories that might not have found a home in the traditional studio system.
All right, so we've talked about the creative minds behind Dope Thief, but let's circle back to the people bringing those characters to life. The cast, I mean, Brian Tyree Henry and Wagner Moura talk about a powerhouse duo.
Casting is everything, and they absolutely nailed it with this series.
Yeah?
Brian Tyree Henry has this incredible range. He can be funny, he can be heartbreaking, he can be downright terrifying. And from what we see in the trailer, he's bringing all of those facets to his portrayal of Ray.
There's a vulnerability there,
Uh-huh.
a sense that he's in over his head,
Yeah.
but also a determination to protect himself and those he cares about. You mentioned Atlanta earlier. He was brilliant in that show. He can handle drama, comedy, and everything in between.
Absolutely. And then you've got Wagner Moura, who just blew everyone away, as Pablo Escobar in Narcos.
Right.
He has this intensity, this charisma that just commands your attention. And as Manny Ray's partner in crime,
Right.
he brings a different energy to the dynamic. He seems more reckless,
Yeah.
more willing to push the boundaries, which creates this fascinating tension between them.
It's like you can already sense that their approaches to this whole situation are going to clash.
Totally.
Ray's trying to stay afloat, while Manny might be tempted to dive even deeper into the chaos. And that conflict, that push and pull between them is going to be electric to watch.
Right. You're invested in their friendship, but you also know it's hanging by a thread. And then you add in the supporting cast, Marin Ireland as the detective on their trail, Kate Mulgrew as Ray's concerned mother.
Yeah.
And you've got a recipe for some truly explosive performances.
Okay, so we've talked about the creators, the cast.
Yeah.
Now let's bring it back to the source material. Dennis Tafoya's novel, also titled Dope Thief, seems to be a bit of a cult classic in the crime fiction world. Have you had a chance to read it? What can you tell us about it?
I haven't read the book myself, but from what I've gathered, it's a gritty, fast-paced read that really captures the underbelly of the drug trade.
Yeah.
It's not glamorous. It's raw, violent, and full of characters trying to survive by any means necessary.
And several of the sources mentioned that Tafoya is happy with the adaptation. Even though the series diverges from the book's second half, they seem to be capturing the essence of the story. those core elements that made the novel so captivating.
And sometimes when you're adapting a novel for the screen, you have to make adjustments.
Right.
What works on the page doesn't always translate directly to the screen.
Right.
It's about capturing the spirit, the themes, the emotional impact of the source material, even if the plot details differ.
That's a great point. It's like translating a poem into another language.
Yeah.
You might not be able to replicate every word, every rhyme, but you can strive to convey the same feeling, the same message.
Exactly. And it sounds like Peter Craig is doing just that with Dope Thief. He's taking the foundation of Tafoya's novel and building upon it, creating a story that honors the source material while also forging its own path.
Okay, so let's bring it all together for our listener. What are the key takeaways here? Why should they be excited about Dope Thief?
Well, first and foremost, if you're a fan of crime dramas, this is a must-watch. It has all the elements you crave, the heists, the suspense, the cat-and-mouse game between criminals and the law. But it's also promising something more.
It's not just about watching cool guys pull off daring robberies.
Right.
It's about delving into their motivations, their relationships, the consequences that ripple outward from their choices.
And that's what sets Dope Thief apart. It's a crime drama with heart, a story that explores the human cost of getting caught up in this world with a cast this talented and a creative team with such a strong track record. It has the potential to be one of the most compelling and thought-provoking series of the year.
It's a show that promises to keep you on the edge of your seat, but it also might stay with you long after the credits roll, prompting you to think about the choices we make, the lines we cross, and the bonds that hold us together when everything else falls apart.
Okay, before we wrap things up, I want to add one more thought about the series. One of the articles we looked at talked about how Dope Thief kind of fits into the broader landscape of crime dramas. This genre has been around for ages, from classic film noir to modern-day thrillers. Why do you think we're still so fascinated by these stories?
I think it's that peek behind the curtain. You
Yeah.
know, crime dramas let us explore worlds and situations that most of us would never experience in real life.
Right.
They tap into our curiosity about the forbidden, the dangerous.
Uh-huh.
Plus, there's always that question of morality. Will the characters cross the line? Will they get away with it?
Exactly. And I think these stories often reflect our own anxieties about society.
Yeah.
They expose corruption, injustice, the systems that can either trap people or offer them a way out. It's like holding a mirror up to the world and saying, look, this is happening. What are we going to do about it?
You see that a lot in shows like The Wire or Breaking Bad.
Oh, yeah.
They weren't just about the crimes. They were about the social and economic conditions that create those situations. And it sounds like Dope Thief might be tapping into those same themes. Remember how one of the sources mentioned the series might explore the reasons why people turn to crime?
Absolutely. It's not just about glamorizing the heist. It's about understanding the complexities of poverty desperation.
Right.
And the choices people make when they feel like they have no other options.
It adds this whole other layer of depth to the story, making you think about those bigger picture issues. Okay, so we've talked about the show's potential to be this thought-provoking crime drama, but let's not forget about the entertainment factor.
Yeah.
Do you see any echoes of classic crime dramas in Dope Thief?
Oh, yeah.
Any influences that might be shaping its approach to the genre?
Definitely the whole impersonating DEA agent scheme has some catch me if you can vibes.
Yeah.
And visually, judging from the trailer, it has that gritty realism we saw in shows like The Shield. It's not afraid to show the consequences of violence and crime without sugarcoating it.
And for our listener who's a huge fan of crime dramas, I bet you'll pick up on some of those classic tropes and influences too.
Yeah.
The mentor-mentee dynamic between Ray and Manny.
The detective hot on their trail. The moral dilemmas they face. These are all elements that we've seen before. But Dope Thief seems to be putting a fresh spin on them.
And with Peter Craig at the helm, who's known for his character-driven stories, and Ridley Scott, who's a master of visuals and atmosphere, I think they have the potential to create something truly special.
So to wrap things up, we've got this new series, Dope Thief, premiering on Apple TV Plus on March 14th. It's based on a book, but it's taking some liberties with the source material, which always adds an element of risk and excitement. The cast is incredible, the creative team is top-notch, and the story promises to be both thrilling and thought-provoking.
And the big question is, will it live up to the hype? Will it be the next show that you absolutely have to binge?
Right.
I'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, we hope this deep dive has given you a better understanding of what to expect and why we're so excited about Dope Thief. It's exactly. And remember, listeners, if you're ever looking for your next binge-worthy show, make sure you tune in to Binge Guide. The next show, we've got you covered.